Welcome to Yoga Within Your Home. I'm Darria. Today's class is a gentle class. It's just kind of a midday yoga break from whatever else you've been doing today. And we will begin today standing. So as you make your way into a standing position, you might just take a moment to notice how you feel about that. And however you feel about beginning your practice standing, just try to let that go. Find a comfortable stance. Feet might be a little bit apart. Just be comfortable, kind of loose. We're not worrying too much about perfect mountain posture just now. You want to be steady. Feel the floor beneath you, supporting you. And energetically, just feel yourself rise up from that feeling of being grounded through your feet, but then lengthening, getting a little bit taller. Maybe you close your eyes, or if you're dizzy at all, just find a spot that's not moving to look at and soften your gaze a little bit. You might just very slightly shift your weight from side to side. Maybe helpful to have your eyes open for this. Do what you need to do. And you might change so that you're shifting your weight forward and back, toes to heels. And then try to find yourself in the center, rooting down through your big toe mound, your baby toe mound, and the back of the heel. Once again, sort of reinvesting and getting a little bit taller, but letting your shoulders relax, letting your head, your neck be loose and free. Just beginning to draw your awareness inwards. Feel your heart beating. Feel your breath coming and going. Noticing how you're feeling today, physically, mentally, energetically, and allowing your observations to guide your practice today. Always remembering it's your practice. Things I say are just suggestions. Take one more breath here. Blink your eyes open. And start to swing your arms around your body. Coming back to the center. You might bring your feet a little bit closer together if you had a wide stance, about hip distance apart. You can bend into your right knee. Reach your left arm up towards the ceiling and just get really long on your left side. So not quite a side bend, more of a lengthening of your left side. Release that arm down, change sides, so bend into your left knee. Reach your right arm up to the ceiling and get really long here. And release. And then you can repeat that, just lengthening on the side, or this time keep both legs straight. Reach your left arm up. Place your right hand on your right hip and lean into a side bend. You want to watch you're not rounding forward as if your shoulders are resting on a wall behind you. Pick yourself up, release. Change sides, reach your right arm up, left hand to your left hip, get tall. Lean over to the left in your side bend. Careful you're not rounding forward. And pick yourself up and release. Again, shake out those arms a little bit or twist a little from side to side. I think I've heard this called palm tree, but I don't know if that totally makes sense. And then come back to center. Roll your shoulders back. Interlace your hands behind your back. And see if you can keep your elbows bent and just bring the heels of your hands to touch. When you do that, notice if your shoulders want to creep up towards your ears. Let your shoulders relax. Heels of the hands are squeezing together, and then see if you can squeeze your elbows towards each other. As your elbows squeeze towards each other, begin to root down through your feet and start to lift your chest. Your upper chest, your collarbones are reaching for the ceiling. Heels of the hands are together, elbows are squeezing towards each other. Maybe you begin to straighten your arms. If all of that is going well, maybe your hands move away from your body. You root down through your feet, you get a little bit taller, and maybe you lift your chest a little bit higher. Not dropping your head back. You want your head to be free, your neck to be loose, so there's no tension in the neck. We're just lengthening through the front body, creating a slight back bend. Bring your head forward, bring your arms forward, wrap your arms around, give yourself a big hug. And then open your arms, take your hands behind you again. Interlace your hands the opposite way, so the other finger is on top. Heels of the hands touch, elbows draw together. Arms begin to straighten. Maybe the hands move away from your body. Maybe you begin to lift your chest. Maybe you come into a slight back bend, just looking up slightly, not dropping your head back, being very mindful here. Just really opening the front body. Head comes forward, wrap your arms around the opposite way, give yourself a big hug again. And then release your arms and find that little bit of rotation. So from here, we'll work on our balance a little bit. So very often in yoga, when we practice balance, we find a spot to look at that's not moving. Today, we're going to change that a little bit. We're going to keep the posture very simple. Really think about using your eyes when you practice. So try to see as much as possible as you look around. Start by stepping your right foot in front of your left foot so it just looks like you're standing on a balance beam. Very simple posture. Absolutely use a wall or something to hang on to if that's what you need today. Begin just by looking down towards your toes. Really see your toes. And then as you lift your gaze, look at the floor, look at whatever's in front of you. If you have a window, look out of the window. And then look back down towards your toes. And again, each time we move, we're trying to see as much as possible. So lifting your gaze, maybe this time looking up towards the ceiling, and then looking back down towards your feet. This time, look up towards the ceiling and look over your right shoulder, and then look down towards your toes. This time again, looking up towards the ceiling, look over your left shoulder, and then look down towards your toes, and lift your gaze back up to center. We'll turn that into a circle. So look down towards your toes, look over your right shoulder, look up towards the ceiling, look over your left shoulder, look back down to your toes. Look over the left shoulder, look up towards the ceiling, look over the right shoulder, look down towards your toes. Pick your head back up, release that. Just walk it out a little bit. So just a different way to challenge your balance. It's also a nice break for your eyes if you've been looking at screens for a while. Let's change sides. So take your left foot in front of your right foot. So again, you're just standing on that imaginary balance beam. And you're trying to see as much as possible. So look down towards your toes and look up in front of you, so the wall or the window in front of you. Look down to your toes. Look all the way up to the ceiling, a little bit different. Look back down to your toes. This time, look over your left shoulder and back down to your toes and look over your right shoulder. And then back down to your toes, and we'll turn that into a circle. Look down to your toes, look up to the ceiling, look over your right shoulder, down to your toes, over your left shoulder, back up to the ceiling. Go the other direction. Look over your left shoulder, look down to your toes, look over your right shoulder, look up to the ceiling, bring your gaze back to center. Release that posture and just let that go. From here, we're going to come down to a tabletop position, and if you know that a forward fold or standing forward fold doesn't work for you, just come down to tabletop any way that works for you. You might do a halfway forward fold to begin with, and then make your way onto hands and knees. If you're okay with folding forward, let your chin drop, let your shoulders round, let your rib cage drop. Start to hinge at the tops of the legs. Let your knees bend as much as they need to, and let your hands come all the way down to the floor. Once your hands reach the floor, walk yourself down into a tabletop position. Take a moment here just to set yourself up in tabletop. Your hands are underneath your shoulders, fingers are spread wide. Your knees are underneath your hips, and the tops of your feet are resting on the floor. Begin with a little bit of exploration. Just start to circle your hips. Just pick a direction, go in one direction, and gradually start to make those circles bigger. Start to take up as much space as you can today. And the next time you come through center, just change the direction. Circle the other way. You might be getting into the shoulders a little bit. You might be keeping it a little more in the hips. Just move in a way that feels good to you. And then come back to center and pause. We'll move through some cat movements, thinking of the movements starting with your tailbone. Scoop your tailbone under, draw your belly up, spread your shoulder blades as you press the floor away from you, and let your head relax. Lift your tailbone, drop your belly, squeeze the shoulder blades, lift the chest, and look up. And do that 2 more times, rounding the back, and then letting the belly drop and lifting the chest. 1 more of those. Tailbone under, belly in, shoulder blades apart, head relaxes, tailbone lifts, belly drops, shoulder blades squeeze together, chest lifts, looking up slightly. Back to tabletop. From here, and I'll turn so you can see, come down onto your forearms. So once you are down on your forearms, just have a look at what's going on. So we want parallel forearms. We want the same distance between our elbows and our wrists. And what often happens is the wrists come together and the fingers spread out to the side. Sometimes that's because of an injury and your arms don't actually move that way. Sometimes we just aren't aware of it. So as much as you can, parallel forearms. Then spread your fingers wide. From here, just turn the backs of your hands down to the floor so that your palms are facing up. And again, observe. Can you get all 10 fingernails to touch the floor? Maybe yes, maybe no. A lot of people have a lot of tension or things going on in the wrists and the thumbs don't touch. So if your thumbs don't touch, you're thinking about trying to get them to touch. So you're reaching your thumbnails down to the floor. If your thumbnails do touch, just think about really rooting down through that thumbnail. This is a really good stretch. It's a different movement for our arms that we don't do all the time. I know that some days for myself, I don't feel anything in this. Some days I feel it in my wrist or my forearm or my elbow, or even some days even up into my shoulder. So it really depends on what's going on in my body and what I've been doing lately. Take one more breath here. Turn the palms of your hands to face down. From here, take your knees wide, send your seat back towards your heels, and decide on the child's pose you want today. So it might be your face in your hands. You might stack fist over fist. Some of you will place your forehead on the floor. Just take a moment in child's pose just to rest for another breath or two. And then from here, press yourself back up. Maybe you can cross your ankles and roll over to come to a seated position. That doesn't work for your ankles, just come to seated any way that works for you. If you're comfortable cross-legged, sit cross-legged. If you need to extend one or both legs, please do. Whatever leg position you choose, lengthen your spine. Take your left hand to your right knee, take your right hand to your low back and get tall here. And then twist yourself over to the right, just looking over that right shoulder. Come back to center, changing sides, so right hand to left knee, left hand on your low back, get tall, and then twist over to the left. And then one more time to each side, looking over your right shoulder, and then looking over your left shoulder. And then rolling your shoulders open, tenting your fingertips. Squeeze the shoulder blades together. Lift the chest, look up slightly. Again, we're not dropping the head back. If I was dropping my head back, it would be really hard to talk as I'm doing it. So you want to be mindful that you are breathing when you look up. Bring your head back to center. Bring your hands to the floor in front of you. Lengthen up your spine and just lean your torso a little bit forward. One more breath here. Walk yourself back up. Pick your knees up, stretch your legs out and bounce them out. And then come down to lying on your back. Have your knees bent, foot soles on the floor. Bring your right knee in towards your chest. Interlace your hands behind your knee, so on the back of that hamstring. Flex your right foot and start to send that leg up towards the ceiling. So depending on how your hamstrings feel today, you might not have a straight leg, you might have a bent knee, but you're working in that direction. Maybe you can straighten the leg today. Don't worry too much about it. Do have your hands sort of in the middle of that hamstring, so halfway between your knee and your sitting bone. Flex your foot and then point it. And just go back and forth a few times, really using your hands on the back of that leg, so it's almost like a little bit of a massage into that hamstring. A couple more times, pointing and flexing. Next time you flex your foot, pause, release your arms, lower your leg down to the floor. As the heel touches, bend the knee, place the foot sole back on the floor. Draw your left knee into your chest. Interlace your hands the opposite way behind the knee. And then flex your left foot, straighten that leg up towards the ceiling, and adjust your hands. So again, your hands are in the middle of that hamstring. Begin to flex and point your foot so that you're using your hands to massage the back of that hamstring, giving a little bit of pressure of your hands into the back of your leg. Pointing and flexing, one more each way. Next time you flex your foot, release your hands, lower your leg all the way down to the ground. As the foot touches, bend the knee. Both knees are bent. Bring your foot soles together. Let your knees drop wide. So coming into reclining bound angle or Supta Baddha Konasana. Just pausing for a couple of breaths here. If this shape really doesn't work for you today, you might have your knees together and your feet wide apart. Just taking one more full breath here. And then pick your knees back up. Draw both knees into the chest. Hands can wrap around the shins or the knees and rock a little bit from side to side. Pause at the center and then find your way into a comfortable position for Shavasana. We'll take just a short Shavasana, so make yourself comfortable for a moment. Closing your eyes if you'd like. Take a nice deep inhalation and a releasing exhalation. Just letting go of the effort of your practice. Once again, feel your heart beating. Feel your breath coming and going. Become aware of the support of the ground beneath you. Get a sense of the air and the space around you. Just taking these next few moments to rest. Enjoy a few moments of peace. Time to be. If you feel like you would benefit from staying longer, please just ignore me. Otherwise, just bringing some gentle movement back to your body, maybe moving fingers and toes, maybe rolling your head from side to side. You might take a moment just to roll to one side and pause there. And then in any way that works for you, help yourself back to a seated position. Bringing your hands out to the side and gathering up the positive energy you've created. Drawing it into your heart. Pausing for a moment of gratitude. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be happy. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. Thank you for sharing your practice with me today. Namaste.